Every September when school starts, I can always tell which kids have been read to consistently. And it's not who can write their name, who knows all their letters and all their numbers. I'm DC, and I've been a pre K and kindergarten teacher for almost 8 years. But today, I'm actually not going to be talking to you from a teacher's perspective, but as a mom. Because I have a 4-year-old son named Henry, and every night before he goes to bed, he demands that we read a book to him. In a few months, he will be starting kindergarten, and he's already showing signs of kindergarten readiness. And I really believe it's because of all the things that we have done with him these past few years. We are going to be talking about how we built those routines, what books we actually use by age, what is literally happening in his brain as we turn the page. I thought it was really important to talk about why reading to your child matters. It's something that I really emphasize during parent orientation at the beginning of the school year. I also think it's really important to understand how reading aloud helps brain development in early ages. So let's get started. I can't wait to share everything I've learned over the years. Here's something I want to be upfront about because I get this question a lot. He did not become fully engaged in his books until he became a toddler. Babies look away because they're still developing their eyesight. They chew on the books, and they are just more into toys that are hands-on and fun and developmentally appropriate for their age. And they obviously don't stay still. That is totally normal, but we still made it a point to show him books. We also had another layer happening in our house, which is the fact that we speak 3 languages: English, Mandarin, and Dutch. So from day one, Henry was hearing different sounds, different rhythms, different words. Books really became a way that we tied it all together. We had books in English and in Dutch, but because I'm not fluent in Mandarin, I can't read or write. What I would do to immerse him in Mandarin was by telling the story or whatever I saw on the page, and I would translate it into Mandarin. It didn't have to be anything complicated. It would just be like, oh, this is a cat, it's yellow, and it's playing with the ball. Keeping it very, very simple. The whole point is to introduce him to vocabulary and have his little brain understand that words can come through in different languages. We definitely weren't parents who were drilling him with vocabulary flashcards. It was not our way. Felt very unnatural to do that, especially having a teacher background. We were just reading every night in whatever language we felt like. Now here's an honest mom moment. There are some nights where I am so exhausted by the end of the day. I have like 2 brain cells left and they're just like fighting with each other, and I almost skip the book. But then I remembered what I know as a teacher, and I or my husband will read the book anyway. It's about showing up consistently. And the system is genuinely simple. It's just 1 book every night, and he gets to choose. Sometimes it's Mo Willems for the 40th time, and sometimes it's Nat Geo dinosaur books because he's going through a dinosaur phase. Whatever he reaches for, we read it. And we definitely don't redirect to something more educational. We just follow his interests, and interest drives engagement. And the most important thing is that he is engaged in what we're reading. And the other part, which I actually think is the secret, it's that one special time of the day where the phones get put away. He has both of our undivided attentions. I think he's figured it out. And it also has to do with like why he demands the book every night. It's his time, and it's where he gets both parents, both of our attentions. Also address the cost aspect of books because I hear it a lot. You don't need a lot of money to spend on books. Most of the books that I have in Henry's collection is from Goodwill. I would go to the Goodwill outlet here in New York City where I would literally dig through the bin, this huge bin of books, and the cost is 50 cents per book. So even if I get 10 books, it's only $5. And I never feel guilty about the condition because I notice that a lot of the books are new. It's just parents around the city who are just done with the books and just donate it to Goodwill. School libraries often donate books that are being cycled out, so you can also ask your child's teacher directly. So another important thing to bring up is the fact that it's okay to repeat the same books over and over again. We have what I feel is like a small collection of books. So what I would do is only give him access to about 20 to 25 books-ish, if I wanted to estimate. And he gets to pick through those books. I kind of hide the other ones that I already have. And after a couple months, I rotate them. So what used to be old becomes new, and what is old gets put away. That in a couple months, it will also be new to him again. Don't forget that repetition is developmentally appropriate. It's not laziness, and it's exactly what their brain needs. So let's dive into the actual books. I get book recommendations constantly from parents and on my Instagram about what books are you reading to him, which ones does he like, if I have a baby, what should I be reading to him or her, how about toddlers, which ones will engage my toddler the most. Here are the actual books that I have read to Henry and that are still in his collection. Even the baby books, he still loves them, so we are still kind of stuck reading those books, which is totally fine. So I'm gonna walk you through exactly what is in Henry's book collection by age and why I choose each one, both as a teacher and a mom. And quick note before I start, books are not interchangeable. Different books serve different things at different ages. A board book at 3 isn't wrong, because even at 4 years old, Henry loves reading his board books, and I never call him his baby books because I still want him to enjoy those books. So let's go age by age. It's not about the story. It's about sensory input and hearing your voice. Think high contrast images, black and white books, touch and feel textures, and simple shapes. I no longer have Henry's black and white books, but there is one by Tana Hoban that I like, and it's called Black and White. It's high contrast, designed specifically for infant vision development. Pat the Bunny is another original touch and feel. It's a classic for a reason. And Goodnight Moon, where the rhythm is everything at this age. And one I have here is a classic by Eric Carle. It's called The Very Hungry Caterpillar. It's got repetition and bold colors, and it's just a really, really cute story about this hungry caterpillar that woke up one day and he became so hungry and he ate through all these different foods every day of the week. And it's super cute, and it is absolutely one of my favorites. And I just love Eric Carle as an author in general, and I have pretty much all of his books. There's also Where is Baby's Belly Button by Karen Katz, which is a lift the flap book about body awareness, and Global Babies, which is photographs of real babies from around the world. Press Here is a book by Hervé Toulet, which is an interactive cause and effect story. And Baby Faces is also a very, very cute book where it's got photographs of expressions, which builds social development. I'm also going to show you a couple of other classic board books that Henry loves. 2 really classic books about a very adorable little puppy called Spot. This one is the original. It's called Where's Spot. It's got little flaps, more cause and effect. Very cute story about Spot looking for her puppy. You guys get the gist. This is the museum version, which is really relative to living in New York City, as we have access to a ton of museums. It's about Spot looking for his bone throughout the museum. Another favorite. Highly recommend if your child likes Spot. And here's another book that I also really love, mainly because it's very aesthetic and it's a great way to teach your child colors. Also, there's like this bump over here, they can touch it and feel the outline of the apple. This is a wonderful book to teach them colors. And how cute is the artwork? Is all about adding simple vocabulary, repetition, and lift the flap books that they will lose their minds over. The repetition at this age is not boring. Their brains are literally building language through pattern. I've seen that over the years with all the little kids that I've worked with. So let's go through my top picks for this age. Brown Bear, What Do You See is a book about patterns, language, and color. It is, once again, a book that I still read in my pre-K classroom and also when I taught kindergarten. First 100 Words by Roger Pretty. It's about vocabulary building, they point and you name. Goodnight Construction Site, which is a routine plus rhyme. This one is great for getting them into bedtime mode. Dear Zoo by Rod Campbell, which is flip the flap, it has anticipation. Chicka Chicka Boom Boom is a great book about Alphabets, Rhythms is another teacher classic that I have in my classroom library. The Snowy Day by Ezra Jack Keats, which is a very simple story. It has a beautiful, diverse representation. There's also the Maisy series, which has bold visuals, everyday moments that they will recognize. Baby Beluga, it's a song and a book. You can sing it, which doubles the language exposure as well. And as you might have noticed, a lot of the books that I talked about through ages 0 to 12, you can continue into ages 1 through 2. So definitely don't throw those books out. These books will follow them throughout their early years. It's such a fun age, and it's my personal favorite because you get to introduce Mo Willems and all his silly books about this crazy little pigeon that tries to get into trouble and won't go to sleep, always wants to drive the bus, and it's so cute. Henry definitely had a whole Mo Willems obsession, and he still goes through it every once in a while, and I have absolutely zero regrets buying him these books. It's got both humor and emotional vocabulary, and both matter. Mo Willems does it in his books all at the same time. If you look at the back, he's got a whole series, including The Pigeon Finds a Hot Dog, The Pigeon Wants a Puppy, and then the duckling gets a cookie, and the duckling is another really cute character in the story. The pigeon has to go to school, which if your kid is about to start school, that is a really good book to read. Now, besides the books about the pigeon, he also has an Elephant and Piggy series, which is highly recommended. And I actually have those in my cart to purchase for Henry. It's a lot about dialogue, negotiation, what it looks like when a friendship has conflict, and repair. The Feelings book by Todd Parr is another wonderful author. It's got emotional vocabulary, it's inclusive, and it also has beautiful bright colors. The way he illustrates his books are so unique. The book that lives in our home that is read too often to Henry is this one called Be Who You Are. I have done many lessons with my students on this book. It drives the message of just be who you are. Doesn't matter if you've got different hair, different skin, you eat different foods. Look how adorable. It says be old, be you, wear everything you need to be you. And what I love about this part of the story, it talks about trying new things like different foods, be confident, stand up for yourself. And look how cute. I love the messaging here, and it's just a wonderful book. He's got a ton of other books as well, including Teachers Rock, It's Okay to Be Different, the Mommy book, the Daddy book, the Family book, the I'm Not Scared book. All really wonderful stories. Dragons Love Tacos is another one that is pure silly humor, but that humor keeps them engaged and listening. The Very Busy Spider, it's about focus, sequencing. There's a very satisfying, repetitive structure to that book. We're Going on a Bear Hunt also has repetition, adventure. It's great for reading aloud expressively. Pete the Cat is a character loved by millions of children, and he has also a whole series of different books. This one in particular is called Wheels on the Bus, and you can obviously sing this one with your child. I like to get really silly with this one. Pete the Cat Goes to Preschool is a book that we read a lot to Henry in anticipation of him starting school. A lot of the other series in the books are about resilience, positivity, and the illustrations are super engaging. If You Give a Mouse a Cookie is also a book that teaches cause and effect. It's got humor and the story that loops. Llama Llama Red Pajama is a book that I read on the first day of school in pre-K because it's about separation anxiety, which is something a lot of this age is navigating, and it names a feeling for the kids so they can totally relate, and it's really silly. Okay, ages 3 to 4 is a really fun age to read them more sophisticated stories, and it's a personal favorite of mine. This is where I think about books and windows, books that reflect their child's world back to them, and books that show them how other worlds exist. And for this age, I'm starting off with, once again, Todd Parr. We talked about the Family book by Todd Parr, which is about all kinds of families, no explanation needed, just representation. It's Okay to Be Different is also by Todd Parr. Same philosophy. Last Stop on Market Street by Matt De La Pen is about community, gratitude, and this one always makes me so emotional. The Dot, my favorites to use in the classroom. Jabari Jumps, which is about courage, trying new things. The emotional build is beautifully done in this story. Not Quite Narwhal, which is about belonging, identity. Alma and How She Got Her Name by Juana Martinez Neal is about heritage and culture. Mixed, A Color Story by Ari Chung is about diversity and what happens when we stop seeing each other as different. And these are an additional 4 books that Henry personally loves at this age, and he's still currently in this age, so I have a lot of emotional attachment to these. This one is Pooposaurus. When we were potty training him at 3 years old, this one came in super clutch, and it's a very funny and silly book. Once again, we love those in our household. I have read this book more times than I can count on my hands and feet. It's about how Mamasaurus and Dadasaur doesn't want to change poopy diapers anymore. So cute. Soon you can say goodbye to all those poopy diapers once and for all. He goes and he picks a potty that he likes. Be patient. It teaches him to be patient. And then voila, one day you will pee and poo on your own potty. It shows him like tossing out all his diapers and putting on his big boy underwear. This one is a classic, both in my house and in my classroom. It is called A Kissing Hand. Not only do I read Llama Llama as a first week story to help my students work on the separation anxiety, but this is another one and it is super sentimental. I read this to Henry in bed many times during the first week of school this year. I did it actually when he was in 3K, but this year I realized in pre-K he understands a lot more of the storyline and it actually resonated with him. So don't get discouraged the first time that you read the story and your kid's like, what? Just try again the next year and I promise it will hit different. It's about a little raccoon who is about to start school and he is feeling all sorts of anxiety, but his mommy came up with a really, really sweet idea of something called a kissing hand. And before he went off to school, she reminded him of his kissing hand. And every time he gets nervous or scared at school or he misses his mommy, he could just look down on his hand and think of his mom. It is so sweet. And these last 2 books are more relative to Henry because he is 3/4 Asian, half Chinese, 1/4 Filipino, and 1/4 Dutch. So we know that representation matters. And I actually didn't have these books around when I was young, and I think that if I did, it would have made a big difference in my self-confidence and the way I view myself. So luckily these books exist, and the first one is this one. I actually found this one at my school. One of the teachers just dropped it in the free bin and I snatched it up real quick. This one is called Eyes That Kiss in the Corners. It's about a little Asian girl who realized she was different because of the way she looks, especially because of her eyes. And the book talks about where she got her eyes from, which is from her grandmother and her mom. Look how sweet this is. Henry looked at this page and he's like, Mama, it's like me and you. And I was like, this one in particular is about Chinese culture. And I love all the references to the culture, like the monkey, Mukong. It's if you know, you know. This other book is called I Want to Be Like Spaghetti. And this one is gifted to Henry by one of my childhood friends. They met for the first time last summer and they came bearing gifts, and this is one of them. And this story is about a packet of ramen at the store and he sees spaghetti. He wants to be spaghetti because spaghetti is always cooler. Everyone wants spaghetti. Everyone likes eating spaghetti. And he doesn't realize how special he is as ramen. And the illustrations in this story is actually one of my favorite things about it. The messaging here is something that I really love about it because at the end of the story, he says, spaghetti is good, but I am happy because I am ramen and ramen is perfect just the way it is. Really good messaging there. Ages 4 to 5. Now we're building towards independent reading. We're talking longer stories, books that stretch their attention span, early phonics bridges. We're gonna start off strong here with Nat Geo. We've got the My First Big Dinosaur book, the book about ocean, and the book of animals. My husband actually purchased these last summer because he realized that Henry had started to become really interested in nonfiction things like animals, dinosaurs, the ocean, planets. And luckily, these were not as pricey as I thought they would be. They're only $14.95, which is, I think, a great deal. But yeah, the Nat Geographic Kids series are all nonfiction. They're curiosity-driven. The vocabulary in these books is incredible, and Henry is obsessed. We still read them to this day. The Day the Crayons Quit is a book about humor, perspective taking. they will ask you to read this one repeatedly, trust me. Ada to a Scientist is about STEM, questioning a little girl who drives her own learning through curiosity. Charlotte's Web is another one I would recommend because it's longer, it requires sitting and following a narrative arc, which is exactly the skill that kindergarten teachers are looking for. BOD Books Set 1 is the phonics bridge. These are decodable books. When your child is ready to start connecting letters to sounds, this is the tool. Fancy Nancy, believe it or not, has a ton of rich vocabulary, context clues. Every page has words that stretch their language. Frog and Toad Are Friends is early reader, it's got friendship, emotional depth, and a classic for a reason. Now here's the bonus category where Henry gets super excited about, and they are Dutch books. This character is a little white bunny. Most Americans call this bunny Miffy, but in Dutch she's called Nijntje. And we have two little books about Nijntje where my husband reads to him in Dutch. I am just a bystander. And this is another book in Dutch where we actually picked this one up in Amsterdam as a souvenir for Henry. This one, as you can tell, is a personalized book that my sister-in-law brought over to New York City when she was visiting, and it's a book about Henry and his papa. And this book is so unbelievably cute because it looks just like him. Look at it's personalized. So which kid doesn't love seeing their name, seeing themselves in a story? The reason why I call this a bonus category is because these are books that don't fit in any particular age tier, but they get super excited about. And books about New York City is another one. Henry goes absolutely wild about these New York City books, especially as he's gotten older and we take him out to the city. This is where we live, so he's starting to see things in the book in actual real life. So to him, these are like aha moments. So these are two books that we have purchased specifically because it is about New York City. And in these books, he loves seeing places that he knows, buildings he's walked past, the subway he rides, and the best books are always the books that he can't wait to open. I've also linked several other New York City books that Henry also loves in the description, and especially if you are a New York parent, your kid will recognize things, and that recognition is just like absolutely magic. Again, interest drives engagement, engagement drives literacy, and that's pretty much the whole formula. So this part I want to get right, because there is a lot of content out there that's either oversimplifies this or it goes so clinical that parents check out. And I'm going to try to stay right in the middle. Before a child can read a single word, they need to understand that words are made out of sounds, and that's called phonemic awareness. And it's the foundation that everything else sits on. Reading aloud is basically phonemic awareness in training. Even when your child can't decode a single letter yet, when you read Chicka Boom Boom and the rhyme and the rhythm lands, their brain is mapping out how the sounds work. It's literally a pre-reading skill. Books use words that don't come up in everyday conversations. Think about it. The gap between children who are read consistently and who are not is measurable at the early age of 3. Not because one group is smarter, but because one group has heard more words and more context. Sitting through a story, even a short one, requires attention span, is attention practice. Here is a little teacher insider. When I started teaching in 2010, I taught for 6 years, and then I started again in 2024. And the biggest thing that I have realized between starting in 2010 versus 2024 is that children have less and less attention span. And that is because of different reasons. And the biggest one to blame is devices. Children who have access to iPads, tablets, laptops, Chromebooks, more screen time in general, lack the ability to stay on task, to pay attention. They get bored easily. They jump from one activity to the other. And from a teacher's point of view, I honestly believe it is a real problem. In the more recent years, there has been more research done on the negative impacts of iPads and phones to children of all ages, especially the younger ones. You read to your child, the more it's going to help with their attention span. And this is the skill that I look for on day one as a pre-K teacher and as a former kindergarten teacher. Can they sit and follow a narrative? Can they stay with something that's not constantly stimulating in a world that's full of short form content? that's engineered to basically grab your attention within the first 3 seconds. A child who can actually follow a 10-page story has a real advantage, and that skill was built at bedtime through consistency. Stories give children a safe place to experience big feelings. When Elephant gets frustrated at Piggy, your child is witnessing frustration happen, and more importantly, a resolution, but from a safe distance. When Jabari is scared to jump, your child is practicing what courage looks like before they even use it. This is also one of the things I look for in a kindergarten-ready child. Can they name a feeling? Can they navigate conflict with sophistication? And honestly, books teach that. Children who are read to show up in the classroom differently. They're not necessarily smarter, they're just more ready. They have wider vocabulary ranges, they can follow a longer instruction, and they're able to talk about how a character is feeling and just more critical thinking in general. And here's the thing that I want to leave you with Henry specifically. He's 4.5 years old. He's starting kindergarten this September, and he isn't able to read a single word. However, we are noticing that he is recognizing certain words, and I like to call them as a kindergarten teacher a sight word, like a, the, of, with. They're words that are commonly seen in books, but you can't sound out. And even though he is unable to decode a word, which is completely developmentally appropriate because he is only 4, he picks up a book, he flips through the pages on his own, and he's able to tell me what he sees in the story. He recognizes words on signs and labels, and he asks a ton of questions about what the pictures mean. I do kind of want to pat me and my husband on the back for this because this is exactly what teachers are looking for before they actually learn how to read. Here's a quick note for anyone in a multilingual or a bilingual household. And this is something I feel really strongly about as someone who is raising a trilingual child. Reading in multiple languages is not confusing. I've heard some parents say, oh, we stop speaking to our child in Spanish or reading to them in Spanish because as a family unit, we speak English and I want them to master English first before speaking in Spanish. However, that is definitely a misconception. What you need to understand is that your child's brain is able to build multiple phonemic systems at the same time, which is a true advantage. So read in whatever language feels natural. Exposure is doing all the work, even when they don't understand all of it yet. Personally, I feel a little bit self-conscious translating stories and words into Chinese because I'm not 1,000% confident in my Mandarin. I like to say that I speak conversationally. I can get by. If I go to China, I can definitely get by. But I personally don't feel 1,000% confident in my vocabulary range. And I personally just have to change my perspective and be like, okay, you are exposing Henry to your mother tongue, a third language that's going to really put him at advantage. And as long as I'm trying, I think that's enough. But if anyone knows any good Mandarin books that I can just read in pinyin, that would be great. Please drop it in the comments below and help your girl out. So here's what I want you to take away from all of this. You don't need a Pinterest reading corner. You don't need to go to the library every week. You definitely don't need to spend a lot of money. You don't need to finish every single page of the book or have a perfect routine. Just one book every single night. I promise that your child and your family as a unit will benefit from it. It's the thing that costs the least and compounds the most. Every book you read is building phonemic awareness, vocabulary, attention, and emotional regulation and emotional intelligence all simultaneously. And your child will start to realize that this is the part of the day that I have you entirely. And that's why they'll start asking for it more and more. Now, Henry reads a book every single night. I'm not taking credit for that. I'm just gonna take credit for the fact that I'm showing up and opening that book. All the books that I mentioned are linked below in the video description. My LTK storefront actually has a full curated list. And if you wanna go a little bit deeper in kindergarten readiness, I have a whole video about how the Gifted and Talented program works, how the process looks like, what teachers are looking for. Thank you for supporting my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.